Louise, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to
Thank
Valencia.
you for having me. Thank you.
I'd really love to start off by finding out a little bit about you. What is the work that you do and the women that you serve?
Well, thank you for having me. I am a therapist. I have been serving women, families for more than 20 odd years. I also am a pastor's wife, and in the congregation that we have led for over 25 years, I serve in leadership. In addition to doing all of that, of course, it wasn't enough because I had room. So my full-time job for many years was an assistant principal in a inner city school. I served inner city population of children from kindergarten to grade 8. And I was able to connect with them emotionally, energetically. I didn't really realize what was going on, the dynamics of why I could calm them, but I knew. And I was able to calm them down from whatever they were going through. I had such a relationship with parents because I was able to do that. And that broadened my work with therapy. My therapy practice was very personal in serving families and women in relationships that were going through emotional trauma from relationships with significant others, but sometimes relationships with their families. At that time, I didn't coin it as trauma. I didn't know that until I wrote my second book. But that's what it was. It was the underlying roots of trauma and the experiences they had had in life that they did not understand were here to teach them lessons. I didn't know that either until later in life. But I used the wisdom, being in the church and being in a spiritual environment from my previous background, enabled me to have love, have wisdom. But I went to that church, I went into that environment to continue the path of overcoming. And I worked on myself because I realized, not knowing that everything was energy then, I realized in that spiritual environment, I was free, I was happy, and I had peace, and I can overcome whatever I went in there with. And we used to say, don't leave out the way you came in. And, you know, sometimes on stage, they say, drop the mic. It's the same type of thing. You drop it right there on the floor, girl. So that environment supported my transformational growth in terms of me on this path. Because, you know, you can't help anybody until you can first help yourself. You know, how can you point in a direction if you don't know where to point? And to be still. So that's part of my journey as an adult, my transformational journey, because I didn't always know the spiritual realm. I knew only natural. When I say that, I said, I come from a background before being introduced to the eternal, to God, to Source, that did not include that. It only included life. And life, I was lifing, and life was lifing me on that journey. Meaning the experiences that I was having were taking a hold of me and shaping me and molding me. But I didn't know then to become the overcomer that I am today. So that's just a little bit about, you know, who I am and that journey of becoming a therapist. I wanted to teach people why they do what they do. So when I went to Walden University for my PhD, I didn't want to do clinical. And at that time, they didn't have another track. But as the Creator would have it, while I was there, they created one. And I was able to get my degree in family and marriage therapy, which took me away from the clinical side of therapy because I knew about the medicine. I didn't want you to just take a pill for the headache. I wanted you to learn why you have the headache. So that was my dissertation, to help people see how to look in, why do I have this headache? And so cognitive behavioral therapy became my framework to work within, because within that framework, you help people to see things from a different direction. You can help point them in a different direction. It's not changing them, it's helping them to see it in a different way. And I was able to use that, children, adults, and everything. And that, coupled with my spiritual balance, formed my practice and still does today. So in helping women who struggle with relationships and emotional unbalance and the busy monkey mind, I'm able to use those practices unbeknown to me at that time, that God was leading me and guiding me all the time. And I didn't know it. And that's what I tell people. You don't know it. It's like a wind. You can't see it, but it's always with us. And sometimes we're so clouded by our experiences and our trauma until we doubt who and what we are. And I come with my practice to help us women who are spiritual, because we all are. Sometimes you just don't know it because the religion has coined it and you're like, I'm not that, but you are. To help us to see that you are more than just a mind and you are more than just this body. It took me a while to see that, but now I know it. And I sit here, meaning I'm present in this world to help others to see that.
You were talking about the struggle that your clients are going through. Can you talk a little bit more into that? So the clients that you were working with, what situations did they find themselves in? What are they struggling with at the moment?
Clients came to me in marriage because their marriage was dysfunctional and they wanted to try to repair it. Or they came to me before marriage because they wanted to make sure this was the right match. Or they came to me struggling with desperation. I had one client that walked into my office and she said, I knew I needed help when the little child was speaking. And I said, if she says another word, I knew there was a problem. She said, so how can you help me with that? And I said to her, what you're looking for is peace. And she sat down, and that was a journey that began therapy for her. And we've had a lasting relationship for over 20 years. And that's what they come with. They come with whatever emotional blockages, whatever desperation they're feeling, whatever chains that they feel are holding them hostage. They come through my door and they sit down, and I have to ask the question and let them tell their story. It's not about me. I'm here to listen and point you, but let them tell their story.
Louise, with the clients that you're working with, obviously the emotions that are coming up, their feelings, what is that then causing them in their lives? Like what circumstances is that then creating in their lives?
Most of it is disharmony. Because when you say disharmony, you have no peace. You just don't feel connected to anyone or anything. You feel alone. They feel like, I don't really need anybody. You know, I really don't. Because you're so disconnected within yourself until you've built this frame, this mindset that I don't need to look for anybody or anything to help me. And a lot of people have struggled because they have tried different people or different things. And maybe they didn't see the result that they were looking for. But what they didn't know is that it's a process. And everybody that came into their life was building for them until the time that they would meet someone else. Because we're energy and we draw. So by the time they get to me, they could have been with a different therapist or not, or they could have been on alcohol, or they could be on substance. But it was all the preparation for us, because coming to me with whatever they had, I was the person to point them to the solution. And when they realized that, and it doesn't take long, because you're not trying to uncover all the trauma. You're not trying to fix the blocks and build the house again. What you want them to know is that you are somebody, and that you are worthy, and that you can have peace. One of the practices I use is breathing, because if you can breathe, belly breathing, and just exhale. Sometimes we're always told, children, breathe, breathe, just take a breath. And I used to have children in my school, and I'm an assistant principal, all fancy dancy, and my 6-year-old and 7-year-olds are on the floor having a tantrum, and I'm down there, I'm like, take a breath. Breathe with me. And they learned it. And I said, take a breath. Hold it. Now let it go. And for the adults, when we're saying let it go, I want you to release everything that no longer serves you. And just giving them that helps them to go through that door, to go home, and to have a tool. Breathe. And we know the science says that you're resetting the vagus nerve. And the science says that you're telling your body that you're safe. And that's why they come, because they don't feel safe.
I'd really love to know what sets you apart, what makes you different to be able to serve your clients in this way?
Well, thanks for asking. That's a good question. What sets me apart from others is that I come to help you, my client, to see what it is you couldn't see about your situation before, to see some light. Now, no longer to beat yourself up. I don't need you to take a pill, but I don't discourage you. If you need a Tylenol, take it. But let's find out what it is that's holding you hostage. And because of my spiritual practice, I'm able to go deeper, because I'm able to see. I'm sitting across from them, like with you, if you were my client, and I'm listening, but I'm not only listening with my natural ear, I'm listening. That's what makes me different. They know that I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. And then they get to feel what spirituality feels like. And to me, for them, it feels like love. It feels like somebody cares. It feels like somebody's listening. It feels like wisdom. She's able to point, she's able to show me that. She said, she said, let it go. And I was like, let it go. Yes. I have done so much studying, and I thank God for it, that I'm able to bring those little tidbits to my table and serve them.
Whenever I have a conversation with you, even if it's not spoken, I feel the energy of your own personal experiences that drive your mission. So what is it that you have experienced personally that you're able to bring through your work now to be able to help other people through their own transformation?
Yeah, that's another good question. But what do I bring from my personal experience that helps others through their own transformation? I bring the value, I think, of tenacity, because I have had to overcome some obstacles in my life. Obstacles of drugs, because I was soothing, but I didn't know I was soothing. Because, see, my trauma began when I was 7, and I felt hopeless. But I'm 7. I can't tell you that. I just know that we got evicted from our house, and all of our things were sitting out on the curb, and we didn't have a home anymore. And Mom had to leave us and say, go down the street to my sister, and I'll be back. When something like that is happening to you, at 7, my understanding is your prefrontal cortex is just beginning to develop. That's your logical reasoning mind. I didn't have logical reasoning that she was coming right back to take us and do something with us. What happened was, we are wired for survival. And so I'm going to use these terms, but they're science, but it's brain terms. My amygdala kicked in, which is my fight, flight, and freeze mode. And I went into that mode at 7 because you're built for survival. You were created to love, but you're built, meaning this mind is built for survival. And you will survive, because when that fight, flight, or freeze mode kicks in, it's guiding you to either fight. When the tiger is coming, you're not fighting, you're running. So when some danger came in my life and in this abusive relationship, I couldn't beat him. Flight kicked in. You need to move. Freeze kicked in. You need to be still. Fight, flight, or freeze. And those things are in all of us. It's how we were created. But when you're in an experience and you don't have that knowledge that this is what's operating, you don't know why you do what you do. But when you have someone who's working with you who can teach you, how does this computer that's inside my head, how does this operate? What in the world is making me do what I do? So that's what makes me different. I've studied the mind, the natural. I've studied the spiritual. And honey, I've had the experiences.
Louise, what should people expect when they come and work with you? What does that transformation look like? How does it show up in their lives?
Well, when people come to work with me, it shows up as I finally have some tools to work with. After a session with me, they say that they feel better. And if I was to say, well, what does that mean? I feel like things that I had told, that I said to people, or things that I did, like a procrastination, things that I just couldn't get done. You gave me a perception to see it from a different perspective. And I would have never saw it from that. So they kept calling me a procrastinator because I would start and stop. And so I would show them where you just have things stored. It's okay. You know, a lot of times in life, you just need to hear it's okay. And my clients get to hear that from me. And they get to trust that I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. I want you to know that it's okay, because that was then, and baby, this is now.
Louise, I just wanted to say congratulations on all of your achievements, your life experiences, the work that you do and your accomplishments, including being an author. What was that like to be able to write your story in that way and be visible in that way?
Thank you for asking that question, because with writing my second book, my first book was holding on and letting go from a psychospiritual perspective. And when I wrote that book, as all writers would tell you, it was about me. It was about my journey of what I had gone through and how I could tell people about the cluttered mind, about emotional drainage. Each chapter focused on a part of the person that they were holding on to and they needed to let go. My second book was Higher Steps for Healing. That was a book about my life, but it's a book about trauma. Because in that book, I wrote it during COVID, which was quiet time for everyone. I was able to take some deep dives. I had no idea that I was writing it like that. I just started writing. And that was an experience because I was able to recall for my reader scientific practices from Bruce Lipton, epigenetics, how you can change your environment. And Bruce talks about it's not your genes that make you, it is your environment. And I have experienced that. And I used his teachings and his practices on myself. And I created my environment with epigenetics to transform my cells. Need I say at that time, I was still harnessing cancer. And I was working on myself because I was not taking chemo. Not for any reason. I was just not taking it. I was working and using Bruce Lipton's practices. Michael Beckworth came up and using his practice about God is a presence that's never an absence. You see, in the church world, you don't hear that. You hear God, but for some reason, and I also, in a chapter that says that the pastors and the teachers in the church, they only did the best they could. So no blame. But you don't see God as a presence within you all the time. You know that he's in you because they tell you that he's in you, and you read he's in you. But how do you get to know that God is in you? Writing that book in that time of stillness gave me that time to embrace the Spirit of God, the presence of God that lives within us. And because of that, and because of Beckworth's teachings and so many others that I mentioned in the book, I wasn't afraid to go beyond the natural because they let you know that spirit doesn't die. And I wanted to know why my mom was like she was, because it's DNA. Because what made me was her, but what made her was her mom. And I'm telling you, the downloads that I got from my grandma Leona make me teary because I was able to talk to her. But prior to speaking to her, I was able to interview my mom, who was then about 85. And she was telling me about her upbringing and how her mom had come over from Spain to Antigua, married her dad, which was an African from Morocco. And my mom's parents were from Spain, and they had Asian background. And you're not marrying this dark Moroccan who is our gardener. Absolutely not, they told her mother. But she fell in love. And she went off with the Moroccan. And they disowned her, but she didn't care. She went off with the Moroccan. And my grandfather was a pharmacist. But they lived a happy life. And she had to do things on her own because she was disconnected from the family. And in that day, they had coal stoves. They lived in the Bronx. We're talking about in the U.S. Okay, and they lived in one of the communities of the Bronx. But she was putting coal in the stove because that's what she did. And on this day, Grandma Leona had very long hair. Because remember, she's got Asian, Spain, okay? She's got that thing going on. Beautiful, beautiful hair. She was beautiful. And she bent over and her hair caught fire. And she was pregnant with my mom at the time. So for me to understand why my mom was like she was, I had to understand her mother and what happened to her in utero. Her mom lost it, and there wasn't therapy back in then. And remember, the family had disowned her. So she carried my mom until she was about 7 months, I think. And then mom had to go in an incubator. Now, in an incubator, when children, especially, just imagine mom is born 27, just imagine that time. You're just in the incubator. So mom had unattachment issues, abandonment issues from the time that she came out of the womb. She was left in the incubator, of course, to grow, but she was detached from her mom. And the nurses didn't come like they do today and take you out and cuddle you. You know, all of that was not happening. So mom grew up with one side of her body. We call it scoliosis now, but back then they didn't have a name for it, but she obviously had that. And so she was teased because when she finally became, to be able to walk, she couldn't. But yeah, understanding Grandma Leona helped me to understand my mother, Ruthie, and helped me to understand Louise.
Just really quickly before we finish, you are here on the Women Thrive Retreat. It's Projection Day. We are in Valencia. I'd just love to find out from you how it's been. Like, what do you have to say about the past week and your experiences on the retreat?
The retreat in Valencia with Women Thrive and the women that are a part of this group, this tribe, has been just amazing, extraordinary, fantastical. We have one of the women with us, and she would give us a word for the day. Every day she would come up with a different word. And it kind of highlighted what was happening in our day. But Ray, our coach, our senior coach, is such a visionary. Like, she planned for us to be in that countryside. And that was so rewarding. It was quiet time. And you brought the meditations in the morning. Then we had the chef. But everything was aligned for us. Because, see, you have to work on yourself. Because we're always giving. This was a time to receive. The boat ride. Even though I don't swim, just watching you guys jump into the water. I was, look at this. Go, go, girls. I was fine in my space. But the retreat has brought, for me, presence again. Presence of, you needed this for yourself. Because I'm a giver. I take care of my mom, who's now 98. And I've been taking care of her for 25 years or so. And I take care of my husband, who fell ill last October after open heart surgery. He was unable to come back for 5 months, but God worked a miracle in his life. And when he came back, he was still needy. I'm able to serve him, but that serving him is with love, and it's with gratitude. But I couldn't give it to him and tell it to him unless I had it first. So being here in the retreat helped me to be able to sit back and be served. We had a chef. We have our coaches. You guys are pouring into us. And I'm just loving it.
Louise, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for everything that you do and what you bring to this world. How do people find you? Where can we discover you and follow you and jump into your world?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at The Mindset for Freedom. TikTok, the same thing. Facebook is under my name, Louise Pyant. But my profile is The Mindset for Freedom. Thank you for having me.